Hi love, I want to share something with you that I think is very helpful for all creatives. It's a realization I came upon through my Avail email program, which is my creative coaching, my private creative coaching program, where I work very intensely with individuals on their creative path. And because it's about constant communication about our creativity, and I'm getting my clients to basically analyze and observe their creative patterns, paths, desires, ways and everything, it obviously it makes me look at my own and just overall how we work as creatives. And I've discovered that there is two particular ways that we work, and it's helpful in how you approach a project, or how to pick a project. Let's say that we all have a million ideas in our head, and I think we all struggle with which one do we do. I think it's one of the biggest creative blocks that I have. It's something that I come up against time and time again, and I have to navigate my way through that. And this realization for me has simplified it. It's just made it all so much easier, because there are two main ways that we create. And yes, there are lots of ways, there's lots of ways that we create or approach our creating. This is what this is really about, how we approach our creating. But they kind of fit into these two categories. So these are kind of the main categories, and then all the other ways we create are kind of in these two boxes. So say you've got a million projects you want to do. Most likely this is the scenario anyway, but say there's a load that you want to do. Say you've got a decent chunk of time that you can now dedicate to your projects, but you just don't know which one to do because there are so many, and many of them aren't even related. They're in completely different realms, so they can't really help each other along in any way. What do you do? Well, you have two options. You have more than two options, as I say, but they fit into these two categories. Number one, you follow what you're most drawn to. You follow where the creative inspiration is going. You follow where your creative instinct is going, which I do have a video on your creative instinct, as I call it, which is your rawest, naturalist, most primal way of creating. You follow the path that's laid out before you, that you aren't really in control of, that you aren't thinking about. Your energy is just going that direction, so you follow it. Number two is you focus on your outcome. You decide what project you want most finished. So it's those things that we talk about a lot as creatives. The first way of creating is kind of the process, and this one is kind of the product. But what I want to say is they both have pros and cons, and I will use myself as an example to these pros and cons. I prefer working in the first way. I do what I call bitting and bobbing. I go from project to project to project in wherever my energy most feel it wants to go. The caveat to this is it takes you a long time to finish your projects. You've got so many on the go, and often because your creative energy then doesn't go in places where it did before, you don't finish them ever. So that is the con to it, but the pro is that you're in flow, you're in creative energy a lot more. The second way, I feel very empowered. It's not something I often do, but I feel empowered because you see it building and developing and moving quickly. And that is the pro to it, is that you see things happening a lot quicker. You've got momentum, and you feel like you feel productive and wonderful because you see the progress. But it's more of an action orientated kind of way of being. It's more in your head, it's more strategy, it's more thinking out the plan of how something's going to go, rather than the first way, which is feeling and being in the creative energy. So the pro is that momentum, that productivity, that quickness. The con is having to focus all of the time when your energy might be wanting to go over here and you're pulling it back this way, and really trying to a lot of the time push. So they both have those pros and those cons. And what I find is that most creatives will work with either way, depending. You know, it's not like you're either one or the other, kind of like your introvert extrovert thing. You're never fully one or the other, you work in both ways. When I see people coming up against a lot of problems, it's actually because they're trying to merge these two ways of working. Okay, so they're thinking, where is my energy most going? And they're trying to feel into that, but they're still trying to do it from the second way of working, where you're thinking about the outcome. So they're thinking about the end result of the project and trying to determine where their most energy wants to go in that regard. So what I mean is, they aren't feeling into the moment of right now what they want to create. They're thinking of what they most want to create as a finished product still. Yeah, if you think right now, this second, what do I most want to do in this exact moment? What do you want to create right now? So don't think of the project as a whole and all the bits and pieces that want to go in it. So for me, it could be like an online course. There's all these bits and pieces, but I only actually want to do this one section from it, or I want to write this one blog post or this one video. There can be, your energy can be going into these exact things you want to do right here, right now. But because you're thinking of it as a whole, because you're thinking of it from the second way of creating, you can not feel really where you want, what you want to work on. So this is where I feel like problems occur, is when you try to mix the two. So the first way is more like this, more like waves, more flowy, and the second way is more structured, it's more strategy. And you can really do well if you think about this, and I've discovered this since I've figured out this. You can just stop in the moment when you're struggling or when you're stuck and think about which way of working would be the most beneficial for you to employ right now. And as I say, I feel like we can flip between the two, and I don't think there's a problem with doing that, even hourly. But the problem comes when you merge them both together in the moment. The creative path is a windy one. It isn't a straight line. It's a windy, 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 windy road that we often have to navigate, and it is really useful to be able to understand this sort of stuff so that you can get the most benefit out of your creativity. So these are just tools, and just use them when you feel like you've lost a bit of direction, or you're really on that windy, windy point of your path. The two questions you can ask yourself for the first way of creating is, what do I most want to do, create right now in this moment? And think from within out, not external, not what you want created, but what you want to create. And the question for the second way of working is, what project do I most want finished right now? If I could pick on my long list of 1,000 projects, which one would be instantly created in life, and I didn't have to actually do the work to do it, what project would you most want finished? I find that instant project question quite an interesting one, because often if you would, or if you could have any project immediately created on your list, you will often find it will be the one that is most scary, or is most not the one that you would actually go for, because it's the scariest, it's the biggest, it's therefore the one really that you should be going for. Because if it's the one that you most want in the world, then that is where your energy should be if you're working in this way. But the reason often why we don't do that is because it very much doesn't go with way one in terms of what you want to create. We often don't want to create the most scary thing. It's the most difficult thing to tackle. So if that's the case, if you've got something really scary that you want to bring into the world, then I suggest working in the second way. If all of your projects feel kind of the same level, that you just don't, you know, you just love all of them and you just want to get stuck into all of them, then go for the first way in each moment if the end result is not that important to you, really. So this is just the tip of the iceberg of stuff that has just become more apparent to me during my creative coaching. I don't currently have any spaces for Avail email at that level, but I have just opened up, if you want some creative coaching, just individual sessions on my Etsy shop called Pick My Brains, where you can just connect with me one-on-one if you want to. And I was very resistant to doing one-on-one coaching, just one-off sessions, I mean, because even one of my Avail email clients wanted that, but I was very resistant to it because change happens through time, it happens through consistency, which is what the Avail email program's about, which is why I did put out coaching that way, where I'm constantly there with my clients, and I didn't want to raise that expectation of thinking that you can fix everything and, oh, I'm done now, I understand my creativity completely in one half-an-hour session. It doesn't work that way. So I didn't want to put that out there that, you know, you spend half an hour with somebody, and that's a lot of the coaching model right now, is these one-off sessions, and it's like, it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't happen through quantum leaps. It happens through being there consistently and being able to be coached constantly, like with the Avail email program. So what Pick My Brains is it isn't coaching. It's a way of doing one-off sessions that I actually feel comfortable with. You just come to me with your questions and I answer all of your questions. So it's not that deep dive level of one-on-one coaching that Avail email is. It's get everything out of me that you can in half an hour. That's what that is. So there's a few spots open, and I've also figured out a way to do it for you guys that are really not happy to meet on Skype and things like that, that you're introverted. There is a creative introverts option on there for you guys that don't want to meet up face to face. There's a way for you guys to still get that level of coaching if you want it. Or I do actually have, if you want help with your creative projects, a class all about navigating your creative goals, bringing them into being, and that's called Creative Goal Journaling, and that's available for you on Journal Workshops if you don't want one-on-one coaching, if you want a self-study course and do it yourself, basically. Whew, and I am sweating, so I'm gonna go open this door and get some air, and I hope that this video has had some value for you, love, and I just wish you the best on your creative journey. Bye. If you're not already, come join me on my art community, journalworkshops.ning.com, to connect with other artists, to ask questions, share ideas, share your artwork, get inspired by others' artwork, join in our monthly challenges, our other groups, our other classes, and just to connect with like-minded, beautiful, creative people like yourself. Much love, everybody. Bye bye.